My name's Thomas Fleischman. I've lived here since part-time since I was 3, 1958. Full-time since 1973. I own a house in Whiteface, Intervale.
Do you have a business here?
I'm a home inspector, and I travel up to an hour from my house, so I cover a wide area. Some of the worst roads in the state are in Sandwich. Most notably is the Holderness Road, 113, and Little Pond Road.
Ben?
Ben Shambaugh. I have a small business, Wayside Farm in North Sandwich. I live on Whiteface Road, 113A, a state road. I've lived there since 1976. I would say that I've been on the planning board, the zoning board, or the board of selectmen for 20 years, and I've had some dealings with Lakes Region Planning Commission over the years. I've observed the traffic, which has gone way up on my road, and the maintenance, which has gone way down in the last number of years. I have a seasonal business, and I received a tremendous number of complaints from summer visitors this year, much more than in prior years, about the quality of the road and the drive into Sandwich.
Don?
My name is Don Brown, and I'm owner of the Corner House Inn, which is a restaurant on Main Street in Center Sandwich. And we've been at this location since early spring of 1981. And we've seen a lot of changes over the years in the entire Lakes region, but one of the more immediate changes we've seen, and the more significant ones, is the deterioration of the roads all accessing Sandwich, and the effect that's had on visitors wanting to come to Sandwich, not only to visit us, but to spend an afternoon or an early evening in Sandwich visiting the other local shops and businesses in town. It's been significant, and it's been an outcry that we've heard from customers who either still come or don't come as regularly or don't come for at all anymore because of the conditions of the roads coming into town.
And Dan?
Dan Peasley, own and operate a custom home building company in Sandwich. We do winter plowing and maintenance also. I'm also president of the Sandwich Fair, so we see the roads from many different angles. Our equipment moving in and out from our shop to get to job sites, the roads are atrocious. It's hard to get lumber deliveries, during the spring because of road bans. And then just plowing the roads in the winter and trying to get from one side of town to the other, and you beat up your trucks, but you can't clean anything. So it's dangerous. And then, I was born here in 1954. I've lived here my entire life, and the last 4 years, it's just mind-boggling that they can sit in Concord and say there is no money.
Kyle?
I'm Carl McNall. I've lived here for 18 years. I've been on the planning board. I've been a library trustee. I'm on the town energy committee. I do a fair amount of site analysis for solar installations, and that requires me to go pretty much all over the state. In my opinion, the roads here are by far the worst from all the ones I get to drive. In terms of Little Pond Road, I'm required to use it or else I can't come to the village. So only because Don gave me free coffee this morning did I come. But no, seriously, Little Pond Road is abominable.
How much do you suppose that these bad roads are costing us? What do they cost the town in business, and what do they cost the automobile owner?
I think that's just to go around the pavement.
And on the wrong side of the road.
And
We
on
all
the wrong
know
side of the road,
that happens on a lot of the roads, and I've been living on Whiteface Road for 40 years or so, and it's definitely getting worse. But I think one of the comments that I find most striking is that my business, which is seasonal, starts hopefully pulling in customers in very early May.
What do you do?
I have a farm and greenhouse and sell flowering plants to retail people in about a 30-mile radius. One of the comments, we had a lot of comments about how terrible the roads were in May this year. But one of them was from a fellow who said, look, I've been to your business for 20 years, and what is going on with the state roads? It feels like I'm coming into a third world country. That's what my customers are feeling and saying in the summertime, when everything settles down. The roads are cracked, the stones are coming up through them, grass is growing in the cracks of the state highways. They are just not getting maintained at all, and they're just getting worse.
Let's go back. We talked about, the question was asked about how much does it cost for various things. I think money is an important thing to discuss, but in a different way. Obviously, people who need to pave roads, rebuild them, whatever, they can tell you what that's going to cost. Because that's money out of our tax base, if you will, or however they collected it. The cost is never quantified, and I think subjectively it's probably exceeds what it would cost for the road, and that's the cost that each of us are subsidizing with car repairs. If they want to put a big fund in the state and let us draw from that when we need to get our cars repaired because of their rotten roads, I think they'd find repairing the roads are a heck of a lot cheaper. And that's a cost that you can't quantify, but everyone that's sitting here knows it's real and growing.
But it is a cost you can pass on. The state can pass that cost on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the cost of repairing. You know, I live in the lower part of town, and I use Little Pond Road. Starting from about now on, I drive a Prius normally. It's a low clearance car. I can't drive it on a Little Pond anymore, and so that's why I drive my truck, because otherwise you just forget it. And I don't want to have my struts punched through my hood like some other people here have. You know, I may drive a bit slower, but we'll talk about that later. But it's I think it's criminal, and I don't I need to go to Plymouth fairly frequently. I don't drive Holderness Road. Forget it. It's ridiculous.
You go around the long way.
Oh, yeah. But it's long mileage, but a hell of a lot quicker time-wise.
Sure. I'd like to echo what Ben was saying a moment ago about how it discourages people to come into town, visitors, potential customers. We've been at this location here for almost 35 years. And, you know, we're used to the seasonal fluctuations, the up and down of the area visitors and when they come to town and when they frequent our business. And for years, we got used to hearing from local people in Holderness, or, you know, a few miles away, all right, it's November, we had a great meal tonight, thank you, we'll see you next spring. Because they, just in their mind, they were closing the door on traveling 113 over the winter months. You know, I used to have a business in Plymouth as well as here. I used to drive that almost daily, and I used to say it was analogous to like mogul skiing, the way you had to drive down the road like that. But I think the bigger concern, I mean, we get used to that because it always was that way, but the bigger concern was just the last couple of years. And again, to echo what Ben was saying, how much now in the summer. You know, the problem kind of went away usually in the summer because there was a little bit of a maintenance to the roads. It wasn't major, but it kind of kept them passable. And then this year, all of a sudden, it was like people were saying in the middle of the summer, what is going on? We're not coming to Sandwich anymore. I just beat the heck out of my vehicle getting there. And this is July. And, you know, not only does that have a cost to each individual business owner, but it has a cost on the entire community because if our business is suffering because of that, that means our staff is suffering because they're not making the money they need to make. They can't afford to keep their job here. They have to look elsewhere because they can't pay their bills based on their employment wages here. So it really has a trickle-down effect everywhere. And I think in the last year or two, it became, you know, it came to a head in a crisis situation because it got so bad, and the you know, conversation around town this past year was loud and clear how everyone was really upset and at wit's end with the condition of the roads.
Another safety issue, which is a winter issue also, because the roads are so uneven. I don't even know how they attempt to plow them. I mean, the state plow does do something, but if you look at a smooth road, they plow down to close to the pavement, and it becomes reasonably safe fairly soon. Not the roads we're talking about now, because they can't get the plow low enough to remove the snow reasonably. So it takes a lot longer for them to be as safe as some of the better roads.
And a lot more sand is being
And a
used.
lot more
yeah.
salt and sand, which
Yeah.
melts and goes into the cracks and heaves it up even further.
Right.
Yeah, they can't
I
plow.
run a plowing service and I plow all over town, and once we get into February, a plow route, I plow up in Holderness Road, and it takes me 45 minutes to get from my shop on 113A to the route that I plow up there. Right now, I can do it in 20 minutes.
Yep.
So it more than doubles the time, and this year, 113A was horrible, and that's all year, that's not just the winter. I mean, I've got a little Z3 BMW, and I have to be careful going by Vicky Blodgett because I can drag on it in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's ridiculous. We all pay our fuel users tax, just like everybody else does, but they used to put some coal patch in the holes in the spring when they got really bad so that you didn't bust everything up. Now they don't do it, or if they do, they don't take it out in the summer. So now it's, instead of being a divot, it's a hump. So, you know, the whole maintenance thing that used to happen on our roads has gone away. And
Right.
I'm sure that's not the guy at the shop down here. I think it's coming from Concord. And I mean, I don't blame the guys here. They do what they're told to do, and they spend what they get for money. But they need to reallocate some of that money and realize that there's more to the state than Nashua and Salem and Manchester. You know, it goes all the way north to the border.
They all say down there, there's just no money. The minute you get up and you talk about this, they'll say, fine, good, there's no money.
Then where does all the money go?
93,
Right.
Reallocate it.
111,
Yeah. Well,
28.
did you read about 93? You know, for years you come up and you cross the border and it goes to 2 lanes, and then it's 3 lanes into Manchester, and I'm always wondering, you know, this always gets jammed. What? You know why they couldn't widen it? Because the EPA would not allow them.
Right.
Because of salt. They'd contaminated that with salt so bad that there wasn't the allotment in the environmental impact statement to have another lane to be salted.
But they are widening it now.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
finally straightened it
Yeah.
out, but that's why it's been that way for years.
Don,
But beyond that, I'd like to say, tell another story, and this is a really sad story, because Greg Robinson, who lost his house over here and also took his life shortly thereafter, he had his house under agreement with a couple from California. And they came up here, and I think they came in 109, and then after they'd had it under agreement and they were ready to buy it, they came in Bean Road and they backed out of buying his house because they said the road was so bad they could not live here.
Your thing about no money, we get what we pay for, and I don't think, well, I would not object to paying more in gas tax if it went into roads across the state and not just widening 93. And I think that, as we already commented earlier, we're one of the lowest gas tax states in the country. Come on, guys, you know, we recognize roads aren't free. We would like to suggest you collect a bit more money from us and put it where it belongs, in roads.
They did raise it in the last session, 4.2 cents.
And all of that.
But how much of it went to the
where-
road?
Where's the 4.2
Half of it's
cents
going to 93.
And where'd the other half go?
It went into the 1/16 inch of overlay that was applied to 2 of our
Shim coverage,
roads
yes.
coming into town. And that does a reasonably good job of sealing the cracks to keep the salt from penetrating for 1 to 2 years,
Right.
and that's it. And unfortunately, if you tried to do that to Whiteface Road or Little Pond Road, you'd end up with 4 inches in one spot and a 32nd of an inch in the next, and you still wouldn't seal the road.
You don't seal it.
Because those rocks are popping up and the ditches are not being maintained and the water is pumping into the warm soil underneath the roads where the salt is melting it. It really needs, at least in some places, intrusion of bigger money than just a shim coat over the top.
Yeah, let's not look at it at 4.2 cents, so let's look at it, what do we need? And look at perhaps its parity with surrounding New England states and what percentage of their funds are going into roads. We're, you know, Enough
The
said.
gas tax is a great thing, but the ones that are getting the benefit out of it are the Manchester, Concord, Salem, Nashua. They drive much less mileage than what we do, because we've got to go 20 miles to get to a grocery store. We've got to go 20 miles to get to Walmart. Everything is close together, so they use less gas every year than what we here collectively do. I mean, you know, I spend $60,000 a year in gas in my company. So I'm paying a lot of gas tax, and what am I getting for it? Absolutely nothing. The guy in Manchester that drives 12,000 miles a year because everything's close to him, he's paying a heck of a lot less, but he's reaping a huge benefit. And I think that's where the people in the office in Concord, whether it be DOT head or the governor, has to stop and look at it and say, you know, we're drawing the most of our money from the guys from Colebrook, Meredith, Sandwich, that are putting lots of miles on to get there, and we're giving them nothing back in return. We're not giving them an equitable share of this, and they need to do that. And to say there's no money, that's not acceptable.
There's a bill in to repeal the 4.2 cents. It's part of the Republican agenda. We promised the taxpayers we wouldn't raise 1 penny in taxes, and we're going to follow through with that. So I don't know that the bill will make it, but the bill has been introduced to repeal the 4.2 cents that they voted a year ago.
Repeal it and make it 10 cents.
Well, it's you know, valid information, but that doesn't take care of the point we're trying to make, which is we need adequate funds to get it done. And unless we tell them that, how are we going to expect them to even look at it?
Now the Highway Trust Fund, as it's called, also gets siphoned off for other purposes, including the operation of the state police. So if you look at Article 6A in the state constitution, it will say for the construction and maintenance of highways and the supervision thereupon. It's police. So Jeannie Forrester is on this one. She is trying to get into the bottom of it. How much is the Highway Trust Fund being tapped out for other purposes?
For other purposes.
And we do have more police per capita, I think, than any other state.
We do.
And we have low crime rates. So we certainly, that should be looked at.
New Hampshire has just been voted the most livable state in the United States by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. It's a French-based firm.
Who probably only come in the summertime.
They didn't drive here to figure
You think they were here in July, do you?
Yeah,
they're
not the most driving.
They need to get off Google Earth.
And
It is a
also-
nice place to live, and I love living here, and I respect the fact that there are low taxes and that it's a reasonably affordable place and a state to live, and Sandwich in particular is a beautiful town. However, the state has a lock on all of the roads coming into town, and we don't have other choices in Sandwich. In some ways, I wish that some of the state roads would be turned back to gravel, because they would be easier to drive. The gravel roads that the town owns are easier to drive in Sandwich than the paved roads. And we have a lot of people that have worked at our farm over the years who will go off the state roads and try to find town roads to get to our farm as employees in the winter time. It seems pretty much unacceptable. And I would like to mirror Carl's comment. I don't know where the funds come from, but it has to come from government. As long as the state owns these roads, it's the state and the government's responsibility to maintain them, because we don't have any other choices here. In my particular business, all the roads into my farm are posted, and they can't be driven on by trucks at all for 2 months of the year. That in itself is a hardship. I can't get any other choices except to go to another town to get a truck to unload into my truck. I can live with that. That's not the end of the world, because I'm a seasonal business. However, for summer people to complain about the quality of roads and say that this isn't worth it anymore to come to your business because of the quality of the roads, because a lot of them do have expensive cars, as Dan was saying, you know, and Carl were saying, short clearance cars have a hard time in the summertime in our town. I find that unfortunate. It seems to me that the state needs to figure out a formula to come up with some more money.
It's taking a little longer than you want.
It's just
Grain by grain, right?
we are grinding them.
Well, that was what the state had suggested with Little Pond Road, was to turn it over to the town and then turn it into a gravel road. But why would we take that? You know, I mean, it would cost you lots of money to even turn that into a gravel road.
Right.
It's got no drainage, it's got no nothing. It's just a horrible excuse for a road.
Interesting comment about roads being posted, and I think that does speak again to, you know, this, how solidly they're constructed or lack thereof. You know, there's this point in the spring every year where the roads all coming into Sandwich are posted, and therefore I can't get my business dumpster emptied properly. They can't bring a truck in to do it. So what they do is they drive a pickup in, and somebody sticks their head in the dumpster and hand picks the garbage as much as they can, which is maybe a dozen bags out of the dumpster, and they drive off. And that's how my refuse is serviced for you know, a month or two out of the year.
Selectively.
Selectively. Please take all the smelly ones, please.
So the town might be more viable if it was easier to get here,
Absolutely.
you know?
No doubt.
I'm sure Don sees this. I see it more passively than Don does, but Sandwich is a scenic town, and historically we've had some summer traffic of people driving through, enjoying the view, enjoying the ride, stopping at little businesses along the way, going to the corner house for lunch, and going to buy plants at the greenhouse, and that absolutely is dropping off. There is not that traffic of people who are recreationally driving through Sandwich, and I'm sad about that because it is a beautiful place to live.
We've got some beautiful roads. Route 113A used to be a huge road for people touring bikes, you know,
Yeah.
motorcycles, and now you don't see them because there's 6-inch fissures in the middle of the road.
Downright
It's not
dangerous.
safe for them to ride it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well-
they all do. They stop at a store and get a soda or a sandwich or
Right.
something. So we suffer many different ways all year long from a lack of roads.
Sure. Many years ago, the town was much more a visitor destination than it is today.
Then it is.
Right.
Much more.
Right.
You would come into town in the summer, you'd actually see people, visitors walking up and down the sidewalks.
Well, that's
stopping
why
in.
we could have a coffee shop and we could have a store.
Right.
Because people could get here and enjoy it. But
Right.
And you
when
don't
we
see
rely
that anymore.
just on
Yeah.
private work.
And it's partly because some of the other surrounding towns have built up and become tourist or
Right.
visitor destinations, but it's not entirely that. It's, if they have a choice of staying in an area like Meredith or getting in their cars and driving to Sandwich, more often than not, they're not gonna drive to Sandwich because, again,
It's well known,
Yeah.
you know.
How's the Sandwich Home Industries, do they feel it too?
I believe they do. I know that this year, you know, as much as there's talk of an economic recovery, I think all retail sales in town were off this year, from everyone I've spoken with.
Well, it might be useful for your film to rattle off, let's see, in the last few years, the coffee shop is gone out of business, the store has gone out of business, Surroundings Art Gallery next door has closed and has gone out of business. Those are at least three that just come to mind right now.
Yeah.
You know, and that represents a significant percentage of the few businesses we have
That's
around.
Sure.
the activity that
That's
we
about
used to
4 out of
have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, they closed because the activity's gone.
right.
You don't feel this at the Sandwich Fair though, do you?
I don't think we really do. You know, I think the fair draws the people because of what it is.
Yeah.
But I do know the use of our grounds in the summer, we have seen it. We have several motorhome groups that come in and camp out, and they complain bitterly. And luckily this year, before the last group came in, they had paved 109, and they were
Right.
very happy, and they're coming back next year because of that. But they were seriously thinking that they weren't gonna drive those big motorhomes into town because it was, you know, it was painful. You know, they pay a couple $100,000 for them, and you pound it over a farm road, pretty much. And but during the fair, I don't know that we feel, you know, the pressure from the road. I think they're going slow enough because the traffic is so much so that it doesn't register to
Yeah.
them quite as much. But